Okay, what I wanted to do in this short video segment is to try to clarify some of the issues around the question that many of you have been asking about is this a research paper or is this the evaluation of a program? And some of you have been saying, is it one or is it the other? So let's see if I can clarify this a little bit. If you look on your syllabus, under number 4, the final project, we read these words: selection and formulation of a research question, plan or framework for the process, theory that supports your plan, measurement devising measurements that organize key concepts, sampling, determine how many units will be selected, data collection, which type, data processing and interpretation, how and why, reporting what are the results of your data collection and interpretation. Now, I think some of you, particularly those of you who had methods of social science research, you'll see this as being a fairly straightforward treatment of a social science research project. So you might say then, why does this, or how does this connect with our book, ABCs of Evaluation? And it seems like a lot of the evaluation, a lot of the language of this course centers around evaluation. So let's see if I can bridge that gap for some of you. Let's just take it piece by piece. Selection and formulation of the research question. When we evaluate a program, we can frame that out in the form of a question. We can say, does our missions education program lead to higher giving per capita in our church? Does Bible memorization in our 3rd grade Sunday school class lead to higher levels of biblical literacy? Does the teaching in our youth program lead to lower levels of sexual activity among our teens? So what we can do is we can ask the research question, and along the lines with what you read in your book, we can ask the question in such a way that frames it out like this. Is what we're doing effective? And to do that, then we obviously have to operationalize the terms, we have to collect some data, we have to compare the data to some other data or some other benchmarks, and these all come together in this research project, if you will. So I think that helps us understand how the research question can be tied to this sense of evaluating something that we're doing in our world. Secondly is the plan, the framework for the process. So we ask the research question, we look at the theoretical foundations, we plan for a literature review, we operationalize the terms, we develop some instruments and some methodology, we collect the data through proper sampling, we analyze that data, we interpret that data, and we make some conclusions. So let's come back then to this aspect of a project of evaluation, evaluating something you're doing at work, at home, personally, professionally, in your church, in your school, so on and so forth. Okay, so we have a research question that we think is reasonably sound and reasonably helpful. The second thing that we do is we ask ourselves, what are the theoretical foundations that are related to this topic? And so we might say, does memorization of Bible verses help in developing biblical literacy? So we might go into the literature of education and talk about what does the memorization of material do in the way of increasing literacy in the topic. We might ask ourselves what kind of educational programs increases or reduces teen sexual activity. We might ask ourselves if there are anything related to the program in our missions department related to fundraising and the educational process connected with that. In some cases, we'll have to dig quite hard to find this information about theoretical foundations, and it'll be challenging, but it's out there. In other cases, we'll just probably come up short with that. In the short time frame of this course, you'll have to report the small amount of information you have on that. That relates then to going out to the literature to find the theoretical foundations. It also then relates to going out to the literature and finding other things that are related, either related in methodology or related in topic. Let me give you an example from my own research in graduate school. What I did was applied some certain statistical procedures to a certain set of data. Now the data content was related to one set of literature and theories. The process of analyzing the data was another. So I actually went to do two different sides, the content area and the process side. And that may be a bit more for you, but I wanted you to at least be aware of that. Next, related is to measurement, operationalization of your terms. In other words, when we say, did our missions giving go up because of our educational program? What was the educational program? What constitutes missions giving? What constitutes it going up? Going up the next week, going up from year over year, going up compared to what? Going up compared to the church down the street. So we operationalize the terms, we get some key concepts, because what we're going to do is that's going to affect how we sample data. So we go to the third grade class, we find the students that are memorizing the scriptures, we sample from them the data that tells us how they're doing in their biblical literacy, or we go out and do a survey on sexuality of teenagers. We go and look at the numbers of our giving for our church related to missions. All these are related then to the sampling. We want to do things that are fair samples, that are reasonable in size, where the variability is accounted for, and where we feel like we have some confidence in the outcomes. Then, when we think of the other broader topics of data collection, we can have quantitative data or qualitative data. We can, in the evaluation of our programs, we can look and say, what is it in this program that is most meaningful to measure? Not everything that's meaningful is easy to measure, and not everything that's easy to measure is meaningful. Let me say it again. You're going to go out and find things that you can count. It doesn't mean that they're worth counting. You're going to go out there and find some important areas that you're really concerned about that are not going to be easy to count, that you're really going to have to work on to get your head around to see how do we assess qualitative and quantitatively this important areas that we care about. The data processing then will be able to see how's our missions giving compared to last year, how's our teen sexual activity compared to the pre and post over a time period with a different group, this group compared to that group. We're going to look at our literacy from a biblical point of view for our students that have memorized this. We want to analyze our data in a way that's meaningful to answering the questions about, are we being effective? Lastly are the aspects of data summary, conclusions, recommendations. This will relate to what have we learned from the process? What has the data told us? As we've analyzed the data, there's some insights that we gain. How much confidence do we have in those insights based on the sampling that we've done, sample size, the amount of material? Because at the end of the day, we want to look back and answer that research question. Were we effective in these things? If we did this happen? So we are able to use our standard tools of social science research in solving and assessing real-world issues and looking at the programs around us that are seeking to accomplish the important outcomes that we desire. And in that process, we're able to provide more significant leadership from a Christian perspective that's going to be meaningful in advancing the kingdom of God. And at the end of the day, we're going to make great contributions to the things that we're involved with. So I hope that's helpful. If you have questions, feel free to give me a call or email me. And we want to continue to clarify the questions on how can we take these tools and apply them in evaluations to the real-world situations in which you find yourselves.